Okay, so we've discovered we have a few very basic issues that we need to go over with everybody that we haven't done in quite some time. That I want to take a few minutes and go over with you. What I've actually done is I have actually combined 3 relatively short presentations into one. And I know a lot of this is repetitive for you. However, these are some pretty important things, and they do require periodic reminders in regards to some very basic things. So let's take a few minutes. We're going to talk about hearing and eye protection, proper lifting, and we will talk about heat illness and heat stress. Even though it's not been hot yet this year, it's eventually going to turn hot this year. And I think we all need to be aware of some issues regarding working in the heat. First of all, hearing protection. Just as a reminder, everybody, hearing protection or ear protection must be worn whenever we're using any machinery. That includes blowers, Z-sprays, aerators, shippers, so forth and so on. This policy applies to all of our divisions. You should all be aware of the fact that earplugs are always available, and remember to have them with you all the time, and make sure you have some clean ones with you at all the time. I'm seeing a funny look like, what's the matter?
Never heard about the ear protection.
You never heard, okay.
And it's probably.
Is that because you couldn't hear, or?
What?
Okay. The second you walk in the men's room, there is a gray tan cabinet, and there's some in the ladies' room as well. You go in there and it's PPE and first aid. There's a massive amount of earplugs. If you don't like the earplugs that we have and you want to get like shell ones that fit you, just go get them, get me a receipt, and I'll get you reimbursed for them. But if you ever need any PPE supplies, earplugs, eyeglasses, gloves, flux capacitors, whatever, everything is in that cabinet, either in the ladies' room or in the men's room.
Are the flux capacitors in the ladies?
Yeah, sign me up for that.
Okay.
And do we have a decibel level for these machinery?
No, we don't. Okay. To worry about a decimal level would be really overcomplicating a situation that we don't need to overcomplicate. Okay, so bottom line is, whenever you're running machinery, okay, and you're all probably running Z-sprays, you're certainly all running blowers. Policy is that you should have ear protection, earplugs or headsets on of some kind to reduce the decibel level to whatever that decibel level happens to be. Okay, eye protection. Eye protection, as a reminder, and maybe some of you haven't heard this yet, so it's a good thing we're doing it. Eye protection is mandatory, number one, whenever you're using concentrated chemicals. And here we're talking about the liquid products that we use. The liquid products that we use can, as we're trying to fill tip-in pours or we're trying to fill backpacks, can easily splash, and you need to keep those products out of your eye. Eye protection is also necessary whenever we're doing any form of plant healthcare, or if you're working in the yard guard division and you are using mist blowers. Both plant healthcare as well as mist blowers have got significant potential for product to end up in your eyes. We want to avoid that at all costs, and as a result, wearing eye protection when you are doing plant healthcare or using a mist blower is mandatory. Should be plain common sense, but if anybody in the room ever gets involved in tree work, chipping chainsaws, hauling brush or whatever, it's extremely easy to get something into your eye, and eye protection is mandatory in those particular situations. Safety glasses, Michael, are in the same cabinet.
Safety glasses are in the same cabinet. I would add especially for Tyler, anytime you're using a mist blower, strongly recommend a face shield, which should be in the same cabinet. And then even, it's not on there, but I would add, because this has happened to me so many times that you think I'd learn after 25 years, but blowing off a really dusty driveway, even if you're not using any materials, more than a couple times, you get a lot of stuff in your eyes and it hurts like an SOB. So damn near whatever you're doing in Seascape, you probably should have some kind of safety glasses on.
And that's why I say here, eye protection is recommended all the time.
All
Okay.
the time.
Recommended at all times. I mean, it's always very easy to get poked in the eye with a branch. A variety of different ways you can stick something into your eye. And in general, we recommend wearing eye protection at all other times when you're out there doing production, and not just at those times when we say eye protection is mandatory. As we just said, safety glasses are always available. And one other note that doesn't relate to eye protection, okay, it is important that when you are handling liquid pesticides, and again, here we're talking about our liquid pesticides, weed control is the primary one. Very highly recommended that you wear gloves when you are handling those products. If you get those products on your hands, you need to stop and wash them off right away. Okay, you don't want to be getting liquid pesticides on your hands or frankly on your skin in any particular situation. Proper lifting, okay. Back injuries, if you were not aware of it, account for 1 in 5 job-related injuries. We certainly have had our share of back injuries here at Seascape. And most back injuries can easily be avoided through proper lifting technique. If you are not familiar with the lifting technique, okay, we'll give you some examples of how you should be doing it, but let's talk for just a moment about proper lifting and what we consider here heavy at Seascape. In general, 50-pound bags of fertilizer, and you're all picking up 40 to 50 bags a day that weigh upwards of 50 pounds. Many times you're handling them more often than once. So we certainly would consider bags of fertilizer something that is heavy here. If you were involved in the tree work, any heavy logs or dragging brush is certainly heavy. Full backpacks are heavy enough. A full backpack with 3 to 4 gallons of water in it can weigh 30 to 35 pounds. And something we sometimes forget are spreaders when attempting to lift spreaders back into a truck, particularly if the spreader has any quantity of fertilizer in it. That also can be pretty heavy. And whenever you're lifting any of this stuff, it's very easy to strain your back and have to miss work because of a hurt back. Proper lifting, okay, how to save your back. The trick is to lift with your legs and not with your back. So when you are lifting heavy objects, you want to bend from your knees. You do not want to bend from your waist. You want to keep your back straight. And by bending at your knees, you're lifting with your legs and not with your back. Since you guys are lifting heavy things repetitively so many times throughout the day, it's imperative that you do your best to lift with your legs and not with your back.
Another thing, like Jim's checking his phone, I've seen guys a number of times and I've corrected them every time I've seen them, but it happens more often than I'd like to see. Is I saw people picking up or carrying 2 to 3 bags of fertilizer at a time. I don't know if we're trying to look tough or what the deal is, but you're just asking for problems. If a 180-pound person is lifting 100 to 150 pounds of fertilizer, not only are we looking at back injuries, but shoulder issues, rotator cuff injuries. There is no reason to pick up more than 1 bag of fertilizer. I don't give a shit how strong you think you are, how cool you think you are. 1 bag at a time, please. We're asking for problems.
I couldn't lift 2 if I.
And frankly, you handle so many bags of fertilizer, I keep waiting for the day that somebody's got to invent a robot that'll load your truck for you. You can pick the bags up and put them in your truck. But we won't hold our breath for that. It's
We'd only get 1 and it'd be tough.
yeah, fighting over. Just another illustration of the wrong way versus the right way to pick up. You do not want to be lifting from or bending at the waist to lift. You want to bend at the knees and lift up heavy objects with your legs and not strain your back. It really does make a difference. So avoid lifting heavy objects when you can. If you're able to use a forklift to load fertilizer, I know some of you can, some of you do. As Mike just mentioned, you don't want to lift more than 150-pound bag at a time. Never try to handle two at once. 100 pounds is very heavy. Don't overfill your spreader and then have to lift it back into the truck. Try to judge about how many pounds of fertilizer you're going to need in your spreader. If you're going to need 10 pounds in your spreader, don't dump all 50 pounds into the spreader, because you're either going to have to pick up a very heavy spreader or try to move it back into the bag. So do not overload your spreader. Use a ramp if a ramp is available. Okay, if you're dealing with logs in the tree division, obviously it would make a heck of a lot of sense to cut the log. You wouldn't want to be doing what these two characters are doing there to the right. And if there is a second person, get some help. Don't try to be a hero or prove to everybody that you are Superman trying to pick up stuff that is very heavy. So lift with your legs, don't lift with your back. Heat illness, as I've mentioned just a moment ago, it hasn't been really hot yet this season, but it's eventually coming to our neck of the woods. And there's a few important things that you need to be aware of. Heat, extreme heat can be very dangerous. It can kill a person. It was 2 or 3 years ago, there was somebody on a road construction crew that didn't have any water throughout the day, and he went into heat stress, went into heat stroke, and he died on the job. So we've got to be very, very careful of heat, and you need to understand when your body is subjected to heat, and understand that heat and illness can shut down major body organs such as hearts and muscles and nervous systems. And most importantly, heat illness can cause confusion, leading to an increase in accidents. We're mostly concerned with extreme heat and it causing confusion, particularly since you're driving trucks. And the last thing you want to do if you are feeling the effects of heat, the last thing you want to do is continue working and attempting to drive a truck. That's a big no-no if you're feeling any signs of heat illness at all. So what's hot? When to be more alert? Certainly anytime the temperatures get into the 90s. This is the official definition of what is moderate, high, and extreme heat. We are going to be working in during some weather when we're in the 90s. Certainly if it ever reaches 100 degrees, I would suggest that everybody comes home and we don't continue to work in those kind of temperatures. As we get into the summer and we tend to get into some 90-degree days, more and more people tend to want to start here earlier to beat the heat and then get out of the heat as quickly as possible to avoid any likelihood of heat illness or heat stress. Heat illness is actually broken down into heat exhaustion and heat stroke. If you look here at some of the symptoms such as headache and dizziness and confusion, you can see that the symptoms versus heat exhaustion and heat stroke are pretty much the same. The one major difference between the two is that if you are subjected to heat exhaustion, you're going to be sweating. If you ever find yourself in a position where you're very hot and your heartbeat starts to increase and you are not sweating, that is when you need to get some help very quickly. If you're not sweating, you are in heat stroke and you could possibly pass out. You could have a seizure, and heat stroke is very serious and something that you want to get help for very, very quickly. Our major concern here is heat exhaustion, where you will still be sweating. You're going to feel headache, you're going to feel dizzy, confusion. You want to be very careful of heat exhaustion because it is a very real risk for us, particularly when we're working with temperatures in the 90s. As far as the fact that many of you are working alone, that means you're going to have to be extra vigilant. And what exactly do you want to do when the temperature gets hot? First and foremost, you want to make sure you drink lots of water. You should all be taking, as the weather increases, as the temperature increases, you should all be making sure you have water with you throughout the day. Some of the sports drinks such as Gatorade are very effective as well in terms of avoiding heat illness. It's certainly going to help to wear a hat and take frequent breaks on hot days. Find yourself some shade and sit down, take a break, or get back into your truck with the air conditioner and give yourself a break and get away from the heat. If you feel ill, if you feel any confusion or dizziness, if you're feeling ill, report to somebody, your team leader or Michael right away, and let them know what's going on, and certainly do not be a hero and attempt to drive or operate machinery. In your case, the machinery is Z-sprays. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble being confused on a Z-spray, okay? But certainly don't attempt to drive if you ever get yourself in the situation where you are feeling dizzy or you're feeling confused. Water availability, okay? If we all worked on one job site, it would be very easy for us to bring water out to everybody and make it available throughout the day. However, because you're all getting in your own trucks and we're all going in 45 different directions, it's pretty much your responsibility to take water or sports drinks with you daily, especially as temperatures go up. If you forget to bring water, we have water jugs here for your use that can be filled up before you leave the shop. If you find yourself with all water, if you happen to have a couple of dollars with you, buy some. You might want to ask for water to drive through. They will, in most cases, be happy to give you water free of charge. Don't forget, you could always ask a customer for some water, or as a last resort, and I know you're not supposed to drink water out of a hose anymore. I did for the first 20 years of my life, and it didn't hurt me, okay? But as a last resort, feel free to use a customer's hose and drink water out of the hose.
Don't put your mouth on it.
Don't put your mouth on it. Correct, okay? And once again, do not attempt to drive if you're displaying any of the symptoms of dizziness or confusion, all right? Steps if you or a coworker are having symptoms. Take a break, as I mentioned, sit in the truck or sit in the shade, drink water and rest. If you do not feel better shortly, don't attempt to drive. Call somebody, call Michael, call your team leader, report your location, and we will get some help to you. Try your best to move to a cooler place. Certainly, if somebody is complaining, if you're with another person and somebody's complaining that they don't feel well, have them sit down and do not leave them unattended until they feel better. Provide water, loosen clothing, and cool a person if that's available, such as with an ice pack or soak clothing and cool water. If symptoms do not subside, do not hesitate to call 911 because heat illness or heat stroke is extremely, extremely dangerous. Okay? Any questions on any of that? And here's just some final reminders. Wear a hat, drink water often, rest in the shade, report symptoms early, and call 911 in an emergency. I'd love to say that we're never going to see any 90-degree weather all summer. It's been great so far, okay, but we're going to, I'm sure, get into some hot periods and some hot extended periods. So keep heat illness and heat stress top of mind and working in those conditions. Any questions? Okay, simple. All right, we're all set, guys.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow. Wow.